everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers from all over the country meet here to connect, inspire, and create. Our guest speakers share their photography tips, infuse creativity and inspiration to help us all improve our skills. The schedule for upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com, as well as the links to previous sessions on the Happiness Hour YouTube channel. Tonight's guest is Charlie Favret. Charlie found his way to Texas via New Orleans over 20 years ago. He is passionate about exploring the unexpected beauty in the smallest details nature has to offer. And he's just as comfortable photographing grand landscapes and the vastness of dark night sky. Charlie's photographs have been in countless solo exhibits, and as the president of the Round Rock Arts Council, he is the perfect person to talk about curating and presenting your work for an exhibition. In tonight's presentation, creating a thematic exhibition and producing print and/or video portfolios. In this session, Charlie will talk about creating a thematic exhibition of your art. And once you've curated this collection, he'll cover transforming them into print and video to promote your exhibition and as extensions of your portfolio. If you're on Instagram, you can find him at Favret Photo, and you can connect with him through his website, favretphoto.com. Welcome to the Happiness Hour, Charlie.
Thanks, Linda. Much appreciated.
Thank you so
happy
much
to be here. What's that?
Thank you for coming. We'll do some full disclosure. You're somebody I met in March of this year, and you were a featured photographer at a local photography festival that I was involved in. And we didn't really get to visit. I kind of quickly went by your exhibition or your wherever you were holding court with all your photos. And it was very quick, but at happy hour after the festival, I kind of cornered you and said, hey, would you consider coming and doing a presentation for my group? And I think you had one or two beers and you said yes, and I held you to it. So finally, you were here, and tell us everything you know, everything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And let me just go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. What I'd like to take you through today is creating an exhibition of your work, but doing it in a way that you're creating a broad theme and be able to put out broader messages to your audience. And then once you do that, how you can take that collection of images and take them into either a book format or a video format. Given our short time here tonight, we're not going to get into the details of how to create a book or a video. That would be hours in and of itself, but we'll come across the top of that and hopefully provide some inspiration to you. So just a quick word about my photography passions. They vary widely. Some of the things I really like to do, though, is abstract macro photography, just playing with lines and colors. I'm very passionate about night sky photography, wide field, capturing the universe, chasing birds when I can, and then chasing friends on motorcycles, and have a camera that seems to always follow me there as well. And as I sat down and tried to figure out what the theme was across those four diverse things, it's that you never really can tell what you're going to get. It's totally unexpected, but there's beauty in everything you can find out there. And it's all about finding the lines, the colors, the tones, and the emotions in a photograph. So for tonight, what we're going to talk about is curating your own exhibition. Then we're going to go beyond the frame, four corners of the frame. After that, we'll go into converting that into a portfolio, into a video, and have some time for question and answers. And we'll talk a little bit later about why this picture is here on the left. So first, curating your exhibition. why should you create an exhibition of your art? And I call it art. I will interchangeably use photograph, image, art, but it is a creative endeavor. So your photography is art. First is to motivate you to create a collection of your best works. We all have a hard drive with lots of photographs on them. It encourages you to go and find those pieces because they want to breathe, they want to live. The second thing is when you do that and you're pulling out your best works and you're laying them side by side, you really begin to critically look at your art and come up with ways how to improve it. If you're going to commit it to something more permanent, what do you need to do to make it achieve that vision that you had when you snapped the shutter and when you developed that piece? And then furthermore, it helps you develop your own style of your photography as you begin to lay things out and see where you want to take that style. And I think sometimes you'll be surprised when you put enough photography out that you'll see that you do have styles, whether you know it or not. Next reason you want to create an exhibition is you can add some context and inspiration to that piece of art. You can tell a story, because as artists, we're all storytellers. And whether you're telling a story of a particular place and time or trying to convey an emotion, it's how does that piece of art going to connect with the viewer? And when you get a broad series of your pieces of art, then you can tell a much bigger story than just one picture. And that's where you can really begin to get deeper into that relationship with your viewers. Commit your art to something permanent. Social media, which I'm not very good at, it's fleeting. You get it out there, and then I try to go find the picture that I posted to Instagram a month ago. But when you commit it to something permanent, as in a frame, when you commit it to something permanent in a book, there's a sense of satisfaction, and you can share that with others. And then last, get the art out of the closet, get it off the computer, and share it with others, because you have a talent. You've got some amazing creative work in your house. Sharing that with others broadens and helps that art grow, because when someone else views your image, they bring to it their experiences, they bring their mood of the day, and it reflects, that art reflects differently on each and every person. So that's a very important reason why to share. So 5 questions to get you started on your own exhibition. Think about what makes you and your art unique, because everyone is different. We all have different perspectives on the same topic. So that's one thing to think about. How can you come up with a unique approach to a topic? What story do you want to tell with your art? As you get these pieces together, what's the through line? What messages can you communicate with your series of photography? Who do you want to tell that story to? Depending upon where the exhibition is, it might be a bunch of professional photographers, it might be a bunch of art enthusiasts, it might be a bunch of kids, it might be people walking through a business lobby. So what are their state of minds? How are you going to tell their story to them? And how do you want them to feel? Or you want to give them a peaceful, relaxing moment? You want to give them something to think about? You want to motivate them to take action? And then where will they view it? We talked about that just a little bit ago with the who. Are they going to be in a relaxed atmosphere where they're spending time with it? Are they walking past it? And then that kind of gives you the mind frame, the mindset that they will be in, and how you frame your art. And if you go and you write all of this down and refine it and think about it, your answers become your creative brief, which is just a way of saying, all right, here's what I want to do with my art. And don't be scared about writing things down. You can always change it, but it helps get things from your head onto paper, and you can start to tweak and edit and move things around. So you've got your creative brief. what do you want to do? You want to start considering the themes and the flows that you're passionate about. Well, in a little bit, we'll go into one of my themes that I'm very passionate about. And then even if it's something you're not totally passionate about, it might be a topic you want to learn some more about. I find every time I enter a new topic of photography, you end up learning more about that subject. And as you get deeper behind that subject, it helps you understand what's going on. And as you define this concept, think broadly. Don't pigeon yourself too tightly. Think broadly, particularly so that you have something that's going to resonate with your audience and hopefully inspire them. And on the right-hand side, those are just some idea prompts of how you might begin to explore themes. It could be a particular subject. It could be a particular time period. It could be a place, a style of photography, even a color. And how do you have that connection to your art? What's your connection to the art, and what's the connection to your audience with that emotion? So you've got a theme. Now let's go have fun pulling out all of your photography. Whatever your favorite method is, if it's in a computer organization tool, use that. Spread it across the tables, get prints spread across the floor. Start looking for laying out your favorite pieces. What connects them to each other? You know, what's that theme through them? What differentiates them from each other? Because it's always interesting to have different points of view. And most importantly, what makes these unique from other artists? What's your unique perspective that you're bringing to your exhibition? This is a way that you can help get that connection to your viewer. Next, you've got a range of art. You start to find out what that storyline is that runs through it, or what is that visual flow? How are you going to attract your audience? And then think about their feelings as they run through a roller coaster of emotions as they go through there. The picture here on the left is one that I took in the Ouachita Mountains, somewhere between Oklahoma and Arkansas. It's my buddy in front of me. And I always found it fascinating to line up with that roller coaster of emotions, because you look at it, you see a hill, a mountain, you see a person on a motorcycle, and that road disappears around the curve. So think about your storyline like that. What's around the next bend? What's the mystery of what's happening down? Because the road appears back up further on, and then it's going to go over the top of that ridge. So what's that story as your viewers moving through that scene or that series of pictures? And what are the clues that you're giving them through along the way? For instance, if you look at this picture, you look a little more closely, you'll see the shadows are getting a little bit long. So if you're in the mountains, it's late in the afternoon, maybe it's getting a little cool. You see that the sign there says 50 miles an hour. Okay, so what's going to happen when it comes to that curve, and what's the excitement around the bend? So have that kind of thought with your viewers as you're putting together your exhibition and the pictures that you're selecting. So you have that really strong entry point, a strong middle, a good end, and you'll have the little ebb and flow. And then make sure you have something very dynamic in the middle, and leave them with a good last impression. The next thing to consider is your exhibition space. And you're kind of going to be considering all of these in tandem, but where is this exhibition going to happen? So on the left side here, what are the physical dimensions? What's the linear feet that you're dealing with? What's the vertical height? How open is it? What are any obstructions or pillars or breaks in the flow that you have to play with? Because sometimes those can be helpful. What is the lighting that you're going to have in your display space? Overhead lighting can make things nice and bright, or maybe it's a dim space, and you'll need to make sure you adjust your art accordingly. And then windows. Natural light is a wonderful thing during the daytime. What's it going to be like at the nighttime? What are the reflections you're going to have across the glass? If you look at this particular image, you got two doors entering on the left side. So where's your viewer going to go? How do you want to line up your display? And then what is the hanging system that they're going to use? So how are you going to attach your art to the wall? Are you locked into a set number of positions that they have in the space? Or is it one where you have more of a rail across near the ceiling with wires hanging down, and you can adjust the horizontal position, the vertical height? Can you double stack pieces of art, or will you have to have them single? That'll all begin to influence how many pieces you put and how you space them out. And then, as we talked earlier, who's coming through those doors and who's going to be seeing them? This is going to be important for how you position the various pieces where you want to have your centers of focus. So on the right-hand side, that begins to get to that focus. Where's that narrative flow that you want to have, or the visual flow? How are you going to play with color, the direction that the subject is facing in your photography? Where's the visual weight of a particular piece? And then how do you begin to get them living side by side with other pieces that balance that out and make that story flow? When you have these central walls, make sure you have a hero piece that's going to be that central focus, and then have those supporting pieces or transitional pieces that will help move people through the storyline. And then what are the sizes and shapes that you're going to use? Is how are you going to balance out vertical portrait style or horizontal landscapes, maybe some squares? And then what's the physical dimensions of those, where you can play with how the size of that color makes the impact on a wall? Because if you think about it, the individual pieces of photography make up art. The collection of the photography is a piece of art, and then having it in that environment really becomes a visual piece in and of itself. And then lastly, how are you framing, whether it's making sure that supports your overall theme and your creative brief. So talking about the frame and the print, you've got an idea of what your pieces are going to be. You've got an idea of where they're going to go in the storyline. Make sure you're doing the best to bring out your image. What's the type of print that you're going to use? Is it a print on paper or film print? Is it a print on canvas, metal, or another medium? And you can mix and match how those are going to play off of each other. If it's a print on paper, what type of paper are you going to use? Is it going to be your standard glossy? Is it going to be more of an exhibition fiber type print? Is it a metallic pearl type print? There's plenty of types of paper that you can go and start playing with your photography and see which one brings out each one. In this example I have on the right, that's the more of a watercolor type paper that I wanted the flowers to go and feel a little painterly, but still be crisp. Next, how much white space do you want to have around the image, if any? Some pieces benefit from going edge to edge. In this example, I wanted to have just a little bit of white space between the image and the frame, and create a balance of the thickness of the frame and the image itself. So not a full deep set matte, but some pictures you will do well with a broad, thick matte around it. Then think about the glazing, the glass. Standard glass works well in most all cases if you're going to have a print. Some situations, maybe you can get away with not having any glass in front of it, and then you can see more the texture of the paper. And then if you're in a situation where you have to have glass and you have those reflections coming across, anti-reflective UV glass can be really worth it. That's what you want to plan in advance for. And then last is you're making up what your prints can look like. Are you going to sign them? This one you can see I left some room for a signature. Did not go through numbering, but you can go through and sign and number, or just leave them as standard prints. And then now that we've talked about the front of your piece, let's talk about the back. So most galleries are going to want you to use D-rings and framing wire on the back. The serrated nail clips generally are not supported by the hanging system. So find out what the hanging system is and what the requirements are. And when you use the D-rings, this is where you get to figure out where it goes on the back of that image. Generally speaking, they seem to work well a quarter of the way down from the top to a third of the way down from the top. You want to experiment and see how the piece balances, because when you start to have a hook that's suspended from the ceiling, funny things can happen. If you go too low, the picture can start to tip out away from the wall, and you're not going to be flush with the wall. So you want to make sure you get those D-rings in the right height. And then you want to make sure that when you wire that piece on the back, put just enough slack so you can get your hand behind and hook it, but don't have a huge, big U shape, because you'll see the hook hang off the top and the piece will fall away from the wall. So by making it tight, but having just enough of a bridge for there to be a peak for the hook to come underneath, that's really helpful. And when you're selecting your wire, if you use the plasticized wire, it really helps things stay in place a little bit better. And also it kind of saves your fingers when you're going and you're wrapping them. And when you're wrapping them, be sure to wrap them tight. In this example, you'll see that there's not a lot of wire wraps on this particular piece because that's only a 12-inch frame. But if it's a much larger frame, you want to have those wraps run out a little bit further. And then continuing around the frame to the bottom, rubber bumpers on the corner, that can help you keep your frame from tipping, because once you walk away, pictures do strange things and they shift and move about. And you want to make sure that they stay as crisp in alignment as you hung them the day you hung them. And then lastly, last bullet, an information card. Put something on the back. You'll have a title card for your piece, but on the back, be sure to put something that identifies what it is, particularly if it's in a gallery setting where it's going to be sold and someone else will be transacting that sale. You want to make sure you have the price on the back of the piece as well, in case things get moved around or mixed. You want to have your title and of course, your contact information as well. All right, so now we're at installation day. If you're going to be hanging on your own, you want to be prepared. So build your own installation kit. Get a little tool kit. Bring a screwdriver. They're always going to be helpful. Phillips and slotted combination one that I've got right there. A level and a tape measure. Generally, you can eyeball the level, but sometimes it helps, particularly if you're on a ladder and you can't back up. And a tape measure is really good when you want to go try to line things up vertically or space things out horizontally. I find the 25-foot one is really helpful, especially particularly if you want to space out across a wall. The black Sharpie, it's not for signatures. It's when you have that black frame and you got a little nick in it on the way there. A little black Sharpie will paint out those nicks. And so always keep one of those handy. Microfiber cloth so that after you get everything hung, you wipe the fingerprints off around the frame and of course the glass. And while we're talking about glass, if you're buying pre-made frames, be sure to take that glass out and clean the inside of the glass as well. There's often a little bit of a haze in there, so clean the inside and the outside before you frame your pictures. Spare D-rings, wires, hanging wire. A wire cutter is always handy, just in case you need to redo something. The scratch all is so that you can, instead of having a drill with you, you can poke a little hole in the back of the frame and get a screw started if you need to reset the height of your D-rings. And if you're at a gallery that has a system that has a locking mechanism, hopefully they will either have the Allen key for that or custom key, or bring a little mixed set of Allen keys with you if you know that's going to be the situation. It always helps to scope it out in advance. All right. So my journey and how I came to coming up with those steps. Back to that picture we started with. It's in the hallway of my house. I had one of my photographs. This is one from West Texas. It's a time lapse, not too far from the Davis Observatory, where you have the nice, deep, dark skies. And it was hanging in my house, and I wanted to get engaged with the local photography community and try to better understand what art was. So in the process of getting to know people in the community, I came to meet up with the director of the local library. And in talking with her, just beginning to make contacts, I shared with her some of my photography. And lo and behold, she said, "Great, would you like to exhibit with us?" And I walked away with a solo exhibit going, "Uh-oh, what did I just do?" So I came home and said, "All right, what do I do next?" Started thinking of a series. So I went through that process of what are the things that are important to me and that I'm passionate about. I was very passionate about my night sky photography at that time. So we have the top left, the one in Fort Davis, lower left, that's in Big Bend, that's Casa Grande, doing a transitional photograph from evening into late at night and catching the rising stars. In the center, that's the San Gabriel River, where there was a water crossing that I've been photographing during the day, and it never could get it to capture that magic. And I finally found the June full night when the moon was lowest on the horizon. We'd had some nice rains on what was usually a rocky set of rocks going off into the distance. We had enough of a rapid, so you had the calm still in the front with the water crossing, and then the rapids behind it with the moon reflecting off of that. And then top right is out near Terlingua, again, chasing the dark skies with Orion setting, and then the Milky Way. I said, okay, here's the types of things that I want to be able to present and stitch a story through. So I came up with a theme. And sometimes the theme comes first, sometimes the photographs come first. And the theme for this one is called While You Were Sleeping. Why that? Because when I go camping with my wife, because we love to go and experience the outdoors, invariably around midnight, I'll say, "See you later. I'm going to go hiking and go take some pictures. And I'll see you around 5 o'clock in the morning." And then when I get in, finish the pictures and have them ready to go, this is while she was sleeping. So that was the theme. And it also played into the audience I was going to try to reach out, because I wanted to get them to think about the night. It's as important as the day, and how to go and experience that for themselves. So we have a general idea, we've got a theme. Now it's go and build a collection of candidate images. Just go through your hard drive, through your prints, and start pulling them down. They don't have to be perfect, just start getting a bunch of ideas down. Shows 50 different images. I was not going to use all 50, but you start to get the ideas in place, and then you start to whittle them down. But use folders, use collections. This is a Lightroom collection, whatever photo management tool you use, that works. Use keywords that really helps to cut through when you have a large quantity of photographs. Use stars. You can see some of these have stars on them. Use colors, whatever works for you. And maybe it's a mix of all of the above. And start to pull them down, start to put them, these are just in random order, start to put them in a sequential order that makes sense visually and a story. Sift, sort them again, take some back to editing, to say, no, I can make this one a little bit better. And then you start to it begins to become obvious which ones are going to be your key images. And then where you have gaps, maybe you go and reshoot one of the images, or maybe you go create new images based on the inspiration that you've gotten. So here's an example of the stories I wanted to tell. Once I laid out all my images, what did I have that would connect them? I had sunsets, I had sunrises. So one of the stories is, when will it be dark? And then where will it be dark? As you try to find out where the dark skies are. Had star trails showing various rotations, various angles. So how about talking about the rotation of the Earth, that the stars move at night just like the sun moves during the day. How to find direction at night with the different angles that you can play with as you create your star trails. Helping kids learn how to find north. And then once you find north, they could even look at the pictures and determine what direction the camera was facing based on what that image looks like. Wanted to tell stories about the constellations, about the seasons, talk about the neighboring planets, the moon, the Milky Way. There's a little bit of light painting in there, tell stories about light pollution, satellites, and then eclipses. So there's a whole host of storylines that you can create to connect your images together. So taking my stack of images, taking my stories, came up with connecting the art and the story together. So begin to see where we're talking about sunrise and sunset, the general rotation of the Earth, the position of the stars in north, the various directions that stars will go, the Milky Way, and you can start to create interest and excitement as you move people through the theme. And then you go and hang it. So here you see in the Round Rock Library, those pictures produced, made to the size that I want, and hung. You can see that they have a hanging system in place. So it was very easy to go and set the heights, do some double hangs. You'll see there's a mix of some metal prints. There's some standard prints that I had on metallic paper that were framed using a standard black medium weight frame. Even one of them, the moon setting over the river, that one really wanted to be a canvas, so you can start and mix and match the different mediums. But we're not done yet, because if you notice, we've got some title cards off to the left, still need to make some off to the right. And then on the far left, there's a little table that we can make even more use of. So let's talk about how we go beyond the frame and go and create even more interest for your visitors. So first is, you've come up with this story of what your art is about, what your photography passion is. Tell them. So what I've got here on the left is something that I displayed at the library that talked about the theme, talked about myself, why I started doing it, why I'm passionate about it, how it connects to them, the relationship of the earth, how they might be able to go and experience that for themselves, and invite them to connect. Now, you can play with the length and how much information you provide. This one, it was at a library. People are reading books, so I can get away with providing a little more information. Some of them you might want to be, if people are walking past, might want to have a little more impact and be shorter. So you can play with that again based on your creative brief and exploring the place, that space that you're exhibiting. That'll tell you how. And it's also helpful when you know where you're exhibiting. Go see some exhibits before you hang yours and see how other people have done it and see how visitors engage with that art. Next step, taking it down a level from the story, is title your pieces. So think of the title as a way you can engage a little more with your visitor, and you can communicate some more information about the piece and also some more emotion. So go beyond just repeating the obvious of what it is. Get to the feeling, whether it's a color, whether it's a smell, whether it's a feeling, the wind. Start to play with things to get that emotion into it. But also don't be too prescriptive. Make it broad enough so that when people are looking at your photography, they can insert some of their experiences into that, particularly if you're getting into more the abstract side of things. So here's an example of one of the pieces that I had on display. It's a little bit abstract. If you've played with night photography, you might know what it is, but then again, you might not. So it could benefit from a little explanation. So one potential title is the International Space Station, what it is, over Enchanted Rock, where it is, at night, when it is. Okay, factually correct. It helps bring the viewer in. Let's play with that a little more. Enchanted Space Station. It gives a little bit of a mystery. Maybe that is something that draws people into the image. Now, there's something we hadn't talked about is on that rock, there's a shadow. And it just so happened, it was not planned, but it just so happened that someone waved a flashlight and that's my shadow in my camera. So self-portrait with the astronauts, another way to play with it. Where did I end up with? Peaceful solitude with the astronauts. That was the way that I could bring people into what's going on in the scene and just the creativity in the scene and the amazement of what's going on. And when you title a piece, it really depends on where it is. You can change the title, but depending upon where you are. And then you can go beyond just the title on your title card. You obviously want to put the title on your title card and your name and your contact information. But depending on where you're at, you can probably get away with adding a little more of a story. What is that inspiration? What inspired you to take that picture? Or what were you feeling at the time? Maybe you want to say where it was exactly. Maybe you want to say it's a medium, if it's a particular type of print or a particular type of film photography, for instance. In this one, I went with the mood of the piece and trying to share just the solitude and the peacefulness of where that moment and transport people into there. And then also trying to inspire them to go and experience that for themselves, giving them a link to how they could go and find the International Space Station as an example. And once you've got those storylines pulled together, why don't you make an exhibit invitation? Hand them out to friends. This is taking that same information and then putting it on a 4x6 card. You can use any type of desktop software to create one of these, or Canva or something like that. For me, I just use an old copy of PowerPoint, and I developed a template, and it's a very easy thing once I've got my title established, my story put together, to copy, paste, and then come up with this, and then print 4x6s, send them all to your friends, make a JPEG, email it out for your social media, create a 4x5 version, and share the excitement of your exhibition and be able to put it together in a really clean professional format. And while you're doing that, you can play with different designs. This was a different exhibition that I had at a coffee shop several months ago, and it was playing with the abstract macro photography, and I was organizing the pictures in quartets and double hanging side by side. So I'd have a grouping of four, a grouping of four, a grouping of four. And this was a way that I could have a card to invite people or people who were at the exhibition to give to them that had those pieces and a story about them and pull them deeper into that art and then give them a chance to go learn more. And so where do you go next with it? So you've got these assets, take it online. Your social media, your website, either way, you can build your own virtual exhibition and your own gallery, whether it's the set of images that you're displaying right there. You can bring in more images that maybe you couldn't fit. You could add video. You could reference your other exhibitions, tell more about yourself. The sky's the limit. It's what's going to interest your viewers and create that level of engagement. But whichever way you do it, make sure you make it friendly for people viewing on a computer screen, but also on their cell phone, and have it so that it scales properly for that. So do testing. And so here's an example of telling a bigger story with that one picture of the International Space Station. This is where when people scan the QR code, they'd get to a web page, which if this is as it would be seen, it's shrunken down so you could see it on a screen here. But if people are viewing on a desktop, they'd be scrolling through that, and it would also scroll appropriately on a cell phone. But in this case, gave them a little behind the scenes piece. People love to get inside how the art was made, how the photograph was made, what was going on. So give them a behind the scenes. In this case, also in the experiment section, I gave them links so that they could go see tonight. When's a space station going to? Is a space station coming over tonight? What are other satellites that they could see? And then on the second screen, it just kept scrolling down how they can go do that from their very own home, why they could see it. It went on to say, here are the easy targets to go find. So you could take this same concept, whether it's spotting a satellite or spotting a bird. How do you go spot a bird, or how do you go find a wildflower? It's one more way to bring people into your world and help them experience it. And since we were talking about getting people online and QR codes, I did an exhibition 2 months before COVID came in, and it was a series of 14 bird photographs, and in the corner I had a QR code, and 2 people scanned the QR code because no one knew what to do with it, and no one knew what the app was on their phone, or did they have the app on their phone. Well, guess what? COVID fixed all of that, because if you wanted to eat at a restaurant, you learned how to use a QR code. They're everywhere now. So I create one for every exhibit that I do. I encourage you to do the same. Have one for your website. You could have one for your social media. You could have one that people click that sends you an email for comments. And you can have a QR code that takes people to external resources. But be careful about that, because if someone else's web link moves, your QR code won't. So I highly recommend bring a QR code to a URL that you control. But they're easy and free to create. One that I use is QR code generator. There's plugins for some of the browsers where you can create a QR code right off your browser. Just get your URL, download it, copy, paste, and you're done. If Generally, they're free. There are paid plans if you want to get fancier with your logo embedded or do other things. And then some of them are, if you do a paid plan, or dynamic, where you can redirect a QR code to a different URL at a later time. But if you have stability with what you're doing, then you're fine with just getting a fixed URL. And so you've got your exhibition planned, you've got everything hung, promote your exhibit, email all of your friends. You'll be amazed how supportive your friends are with your endeavors, and how amazed they will be at what you've created, because you've got a wonderful group of photography sitting on your own computer in your own home. So share it. They love it. Sharing is great. Put it on your social media. As you meet other artists, tell them. Artists are a great resource to get people to exhibitions and sharing, because they love to see what other people are doing. Tell your local arts organizations. They're always looking to promote local arts and local artists. Tell your local newspaper or event websites. And one surefire way to get people is host an opening night. That creates a lot of ideas and people comparing ideas about a particular image, and you just start to see things multiplying. That's what makes it a lot of fun. So now that you've got all of this wonderful art and you've got it all figured out as your storyline and your flow, let's talk about making it into a portfolio book. We're not going to get into the details of how exactly to go do the programming, because that would take a longer period of time. But this is the why to do it. I want to inspire you to take that next step because it helps you to feature all of your best work, create that deep understanding of what's going on in your art, tell more about yourself, and don't worry, you can have more than one portfolio. So it's not just a one and done. So here's one of my early attempts before I started exhibiting on creating a portfolio of my art. I am not a calligrapher, and it shows. We get a little better here. It's another portfolio book, but it starts to tell a little more about what's inside, and is starting to carry my branding further in its development. And then lastly, here's where I created a book that began to really position the photography the way that I wanted. Because once you get inside, it's a total different feel. You can start to have more control than a series of 8x10s. You can start to do spread. You can add words, or you can position pieces exactly where you want them. So if you're with me so far, you've done everything on the left. So congratulations, you're halfway there, more than halfway there. What do you have left to do? Pick your design. Pick a book format that works with that creative brief that we talked about at the beginning. Select a design that supports your theme, supports your brand. Make it clear and consistent for readability. Just like with this presentation here, I've tried to be consistent with the typefaces, consistent with the formatting, so that people know what to expect as they move through the portfolio. And then when you go to the print, edit again, proofread, get feedback from friends. Remember that color matching. Every print process is a little bit different, and depending upon what bookmaker you use, what paper is selected, what their print process is, your colors and the brightness will vary. So if at all possible, do an upload, print a test copy before you run bunches of copies, and don't try to do this the week before your exhibition. We're talking about doing this a few weeks before, so you have that time to get it right. Maybe do a test copy, and also allow time for shipping if it's an internet-based one. Here are just a few of the print-on-demand companies. There's plenty. Which one's right? The one you like to use. Find one that's got an easy set of tools, whether it's a web tool, a desktop application that you can use, or an integration into something like InDesign. Uh, Different companies have different ready-made templates versus the ability to customize to the degree that you want. Different companies have different sizes, quality, the paper options, yeah, the cover, hardcover, soft cover. And so just go and do your research. I tend to use Blurb. It works really well for me, but go and experiment. And then as you go and try to create your book format, think about what it's going to be. Is it a casual takeaway pamphlet style book? Is it going to be a big coffee table book? These are just examples from Blurb about the different sizes and orientations. Do you want something that's portrait? Do you want something that's landscape? What's going to represent your message properly? Do you want a square? And so you can play with their configurator of how many pages and what type of cover and what type of paper, and it'll start to get to what the cost is going to be. And be sure to sign up for their emails because you'll often get discounts. Design, just find a good solid design that represents your photography. You mix and match, whether it's a full bleed, be sure how you manage your white space. Think about how spreads, two images are going to work well side by side or a full spread. Think about that storyline we talked about at the beginning. What's that roller coaster of emotions? And make sure you leave some room for comments, captions. If you're going to have a big cover photo, maybe you have a photo that has some empty sky in it where you can put a title if it's more like a magazine. And for those people that are Adobe Lightroom Classic users, the desktop version, this is a book that I created. I was stuck in a hotel for 6 weeks in China for a work project. What do you do at night in a hotel? There's lots of light fixtures you can go take pictures of, and they're all cell phone shots. But this is basically taking a single Lightroom collection and clicking the book icon on the top and autoflow, and it pulled all my images in to a book format. I just had to play with a little bit of positioning here and there, pick the background color that I wanted, make a couple of title slides, and hit upload. So don't be intimidated. You can make it easy on yourself. So let's talk about video. Not all photography will represent itself this way, but think about how you can take your series of images, set the scene, bring the which maybe if you get the audience, your viewer to buy your piece of art, they do become a customer. But get your audience, pull them deeper in with those images as they move past. Bring in some video, maybe some spoken word, some printed word, some music audio that represents that flow and pacing that you're trying to create, whether it's energetic or soft, and then figure your transitions. Just remember, the smaller the screen, the shorter the attention span, as I've observed people working with some of my images. If they're on a cell phone, it's going to be a shorter attention span versus if you have the TV screen running, people will stand for a longer period of time. And so here is an example of one of my short pieces that I put together and how this piece, which is a time lapse of 400 shots, built up. Okay, so that was an example of a short form video, which is very easy to create and uh, put a QR code on your title card and someone can watch on their cell phone, something in that 30 to 60-second range. And if you keep it below 60 seconds, you can even put it on Instagram. And what you're looking at here is just, this is a free program, Windows Movie Maker. That's what I use to create that video. You don't need to go and get Adobe Premiere. And it's as simple as creating a title slide, having the several start and stop slides, and then the two video clips that sit in the middle that showed the motion. So, and then a closing reference to the website. So it's something that's easy to do, and it's fun to do, and people really get a kick at seeing your photography come alive. And if it's bird photography, maybe you've captured some video of that bird, or you have some audio of the chirps that makes it more real and pulls people in. And then this screenshot here is another one from Adobe Lightroom. And for those who might have seen the video that I had running at the Georgetown Photo Fest, this is a 6-minute version. Basically, it's what you just saw of the night sky stars. It's 12 different segments like that began to move through and bring each one of the pieces to life. And I had that running on a TV screen and put that to a piece of music that was appropriate with what was going on in the transitions. And it was as easy as setting up the film strip with all the pieces of digital assets, ordering them, and telling the slideshow to show each one for 6 seconds and attach the music to it. So that's just another easy way of making it happen. And speaking of the Georgetown Photo Fest, what I have here on the right is a snapshot of what I had displayed. So this is a scaled down version of the library exhibit where we were limited to 12 pieces. We were limited to 11 by 14s. But that was a good thing because it really made you think about the pieces that you were going to put in there and how you were going to present them. But I show this to you just as a way of seeing how different ways you can repackage once you create your exhibition. And then also you can see it here, you can see the TV screen where I was running the video. A couple of things we talked about earlier, having your artist statement or a biography or something about you. People love for it to be personal. This was fortunate where we were stationed there all day long. So you were able to engage with people, but you want your story to carry through even when you're not there. Be sure to have some business cards and a business card holder, just some tactical stuff. Have your exhibit cards and a little holder for that. People love those as a reminder. I do one of those for each one of the shows I participate in, and I guarantee you they're on refrigerators all over the place. They live on. It's really a lot of fun. Have a QR code for those people that are paperless. And if you're going to go through all this effort and put yourself out there, give a way for people to stay in touch with you. Collect email addresses or comments, either with a guest book, an old-fashioned clipboard, and a sheet of paper, or what I've seen also has worked really well is have some comment strips and let people fill those in where they can write comments and drop it in a little box. That's really fun when you get to an end of an exhibition to see what people took away from your photography and how it might inspire them. And with that, I hope I've inspired you to be creative. I hope you've inspired you to go and dig and pull together some of the great work that you've got tucked away here and there and bring it together into a powerful story that helps communicate your vision. And whether you take that to an exhibition, whether you take that to making a portfolio, printed portfolio book, whether you make a video or you do all the above, try different things and try new things. I'm sure there are many other ways you could repackage your photography that aren't even in here. And let me know if you come up with any ideas. Stay in touch if you have any questions. There's my contact info below. Thank you very much.
All right, Charlie, I'm going to ask you to take your screen down. I had a couple of questions I wanted to put in front of you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So Susan's question was, do all the pieces need to be the same size? And I think the answer is no, based on some of the displays that I saw that you did.
The answer is maybe.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Go for it.
The answer is you make the rules. It's your exhibition.
Okay.
So that's one of the fun things about planning out your own exhibition. Quite often when we submit to an open call, they say submit 3 to 5 pieces, and maybe you put together your 5 favorite pieces that tell a story together. They accept 3 of them, and then they put them in different areas because that's what works visually for that exhibition. So here's the fun. You get to make the rules. You could limit yourself by saying, I want to have the exact same size print, or maybe you want to vary things. And with variety comes the changes in that emotion.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Susan's also asked, do you print or frame your own photos?
So for anything up to 16 by 20 on paper, I print myself.
Okay.
For anything that's metal, obviously send that out. And then the canvas, send those out. But I enjoy the print process, and it really helps me to fine tune my images. If I want to go bigger than that, then I'll send it out. But and it's also good to make sure you do have a print provider that you can work with and understand how their print profiles and your soft proofing works and all of that. That's a whole topic of itself.
Right. So I was expecting this question, and I'm going to throw it at you. Mika was wondering, do you have a favorite print lab for do you have a favorite print lab for prints and books? And I think you said Blurb is your preferred place that you use for books. How about for prints?
For prints, let's see, Precision Photo locally here in Austin has done a really nice job with prints. So I tend to use those. Blurb for the books. For my metal work, there's a gentleman, Metal Mouth Prints outside of Kansas City, who does a phenomenal job. And he's kind of it's a very small shop, but when you call, you talk with him. When you send in your print, your piece, and he looks at it, he goes, well, no, I know the way Charlie likes his stuff. This one doesn't look quite like it's going to represent well. He'll pick up the phone and call and say, is this what you really wanted? Did you get your curves adjustment in there the way you planned? Okay. So find someone you trust.
When I do the closing, I'm going to ask you, while I'm doing your closing the session, I'm going to get you to put that metal print vendor that you like maybe in the comments, if you don't mind, because I know someone's asked me and I'm not going to remember what you said. You said Precision Photo, but it is Precision Camera in Austin. So I just want to clarify that. All right, last question. Kathy's curious, where do you use your QR codes the most, such as advertisement or just connections with you, or possibly a longer description of what your work is about? She's never thought about using them, so it's a great idea for sure. So
I'm sorry, keywords in the catalog?
No, the QR codes.
Oh, the QR code, sorry.
No, that's fine. Where do you use those the most? Is it?
I use them on the title cards. I always put it on the title card, just going to my website.
Okay.
Uh, and then if there's something relevant to that particular photograph, then I'll make it go to a specific page on my website that I've built specific for that image.
Okay. Perfect. All right, let me just scan through here real quick, and I think I caught all the questions. And so now it's down to me thanking you for giving up a couple of hours of your evening on a work week to come and talk to this group and share a lot of information. And this is going to be a invaluable contribution to the Happiness Hour project, because this is something I remember when I did my first exhibition. I didn't know what to do, and I spent a lot of time on YouTube just like frantically looking for somebody's video. And fortunately, I found one or two, and I could kind of grab ideas from each one, and still it wasn't enough information. So I feel like you covered it from start to finish, and I think this is a great place for people to start their projects. And I'm hoping the people in this room actually are thinking about maybe doing their own exhibition at one point, at some point in their future, if they haven't already done one. And hopefully they can take some of the tips that you offered and apply them to the next exhibition they do. So, Charlie, thank you so much. All right, if you're on Instagram, you can find Charlie at Favret Photo, and you can connect with him through his website, favretphoto.com. I will link those socials in the comments of the YouTube channel. So next week, Kathy Alice will be joining us to share her presentation, Embrace the Blur. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful, and I hope that we see you again soon.